Hey, it's Dr. Rowe. Hope you're well, enjoying this beautiful weather. Just wanted to tackle, it's not going to be a long live this one. So if you're watching and you are in property, then it's worth watching. And if you're not, but you're thinking about getting into property, then it's definitely worth looking at as well. And that's the question is now a good time to get into property? It seems to be a huge topical subject. As I'm recording this right now, it's a seller's market. So there's definitely a lot of interest in the property market. People seem to be buying in a very sort of, let's just say, spontaneous way. That there's a lot of amateurs out there. There's a lot of untrained property investors out there. There's a lot of people out there that are buying because of what they're hearing in the news. And the sort of things that are infecting the market at the moment, definitely the stamp duty relief that's happening. It's incentivizing home buyers, for example, to go up a scale. Maybe people wanting to get into the property market because stamp duty is being waived up to a certain threshold. I think also off the back of the experience with COVID, a lot of people frustrated with their careers, locked down, and like, I want to get security in my life financially. Let me go buy some property. So they're just going out and literally throwing money at the property market. You've got people that have been city-based, apartment-based, thinking, you know what? The dynamics changing. I don't have to go into work all the time, so maybe I can actually go out and buy a property in the country or move further away from my workspace. In fact, geographically, I could be quite a long way away because I can now operate remotely. So now there's buying activities due to that as well. Plus, of course, you've just got a growth in the number of people that want to get in and start to invest in property, and they don't want to miss the bandwagon. And then alongside that, you've got people like myself and a lot of other investors out there that have been doing this for maybe 10, 15, 20 years in my case. And so we're selectively looking and buying. So there's definitely a lot of interest. It's going to ease off. That's my personal view. I think this flurry, particularly with government trying to incentivize and this expression of like, shit, I just got to do something different. That happens regularly through in a cyclical or a cyclical manner, particularly around recessions, coming off the back of a recession, for example. And we happen to be just mixed with recession, stroke, COVID, and a lot of other changes happening, as you know. So that brings me to the question, is now a good time to buy? Which is, I've had messages on this just recently, Dr. Rowe, what are you doing? Are you sitting on your hands and waiting? Are you buying? There's four things to consider here. Number one, what's your strategy? Now, if you've never heard me talk about this, as we're brand new to, if you have, you should be going, actually, that's a good reminder, because everybody's got a different view. Are you buying properties for income? Is it big income, small income? Are they buy-to-lets? Are they large shared accommodations, HMO type properties, maybe even going looking at hotels, versus are you buying with a view to selling a property? And if so, when are you going to sell it? Are you looking to sell it short term, long term? If you're trying to take advantage of the fact that it is a seller's market right now, what's going to happen after September, October this year? Is there going to be a dip? So if you buy at the wrong time, could you be affected by that? So that's a consideration. Very important one, actually, if you're looking to turn something around quickly. So everything you do has to be strategy driven. It's not like I want to own properties. It's actually, what's your long-term vision? And that comes to the third point I'll come to in a minute. So first things first, really be clear on what it is you're looking to achieve. Is your strategy, shit, I just need to get into property because other people are getting into property and I guess I just need to do it as well? That's one thing. Versus, actually, I've got a long-term plan. I'm looking to build income, and yes, I'm going to buy, but the price has to be right according to my numbers. So that all kind of fits into these 4 points I'm talking about. So let's come down to numbers. That's critical. Look, you and I can look at the same property and you might decide, yes, I'm going to buy it. And I might decide no, or vice versa. So it's a reverse engineered process. When I teach property, when we do the property trainings, one of the first things I do on the very first day of the training is I show how to reverse engineer the calculation on the purchase price, because only by doing that and knowing what our exit is, looking at an income, if so, how much income, looking at return on investment, in which case, how much return on investment, because that will depend on what the value of the property is at the end. And of course, if I know what the value of the property is at the end, I can reverse to find out what I need to buy it for. And if I get that right, I can increase my return on investment, and that makes it worth my while, particularly if I'm using angel money, for example. I know for the renovations and I want to get that money back out again. So this reverse process on the numbers is critical. You don't go into the deal from the front, you go into the deal from the back. And of course, that then comes to the question, are you doing a large deal, HMO? Are you doing it on GDV, gross development value, which is the build value, which is a very different way of valuing a property? Are you doing it based on you're flipping it on and it's a renovation project, in which case reverse engineer the purchase price? So it's no good asking the question, is now a good time to get in? Because you and I might look in an area and there might be one cracking deal there, even though it's a booming market, but that particular seller is distressed. they've been messed around, they need to move quickly, and you happen to be the person that can come in at the right time with the right price according to your purchase, and you get the deal, even though there's a lot of people going, oh no, we should wait because the market's really buoyant at the moment. Remember, if you buy at retail right now, that's dangerous because it's going to correct at some point. It has to. That's just part of what the markets do. And if you bought at the wrong price, that's when you're going to get stung. Remember, I can't give you advice. This isn't deemed to be advice. This is education from the point of view of experience. So you've got to go away and consider these things. Number 3, are you in this for the long term or the short term? So this goes back to, you want to go in and out. And if so, if you're buying to trade, i.e. to get a profit, as I'm recording this, you've probably got 3 or 4 months before it may slow down. So can you get in, buy it, renovate it, get it back out on the market, make the sale before suddenly the market breathes a bit and everything slows down and you're stuck with the property and you haven't got other exit strategies, now you're in danger. So that's another conversation for another day. So think about long-term, short-term. Remember, if you're doing things like lease options, rent to rent, that's a completely different game. With rent to rent, you could have a 5-year contract and rent the property out and not have to own it. Equally, if you do a lease option, you have the right to buy it in the future as well. So these are other considerations. You can see why the question is wrongly suited. In fact, an educated investor wouldn't ask that question. They would just say, okay, looking at my strategy and everything I've done with my numbers, is this market and is this timing right for this particular area and is this property right? It actually comes down to property by property and circumstances by circumstances and seller by seller. Which comes to the last thing, which is number 4, and that's just doing your research. Have you run the numbers? Have you checked the area? Have you checked the cash flow calculations? Have you checked on the demand? Have you checked on what the 2 or 3 exit strategies you have for that particular area are? And if you're hinging it on one strategy and that strategy gets changed by the change in the market conditions, which will happen, then does that leave you in trouble? If you can't refinance at the price you're planning to, are you prepared to live with that with a lower return on investment? But then taking a longer term view, which is I'm going to get that back through cash flow in the future when the market increases, I can refinance then as opposed to in the short term. So all these questions are absolutely critical. If you do not even consider this, then asking that question to 20 different people is irrelevant. And that's what people will do. They'll shop around to hear someone say, actually, you should get in the market. And they go, great, and off they go. When in fact, these are the considerations you have to have in place. That's it. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And I've got to sign out. Enjoy the day. And I shall see you on my next live.